Welcome to M Squared Techcast, a live internet radio show offering the latest news and interviews with the people driving business, technology, and politics in Michigan. Now, your hosts, Matt Roush and Mike Brennan.
Hey, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And we're back with another fun-filled episode of the M Squared Techcast. We did take last Monday off for Labor Day, but now we're back laboring. So we've got a good show for you today, a lot of interesting guests, and we're going to kick things off with Carrie Ebersole. Carrie, why don't you give folks your title and affiliation and what role you fill?
Sure. I'm the director of the 60 by 30 office for labor and economic opportunity with the state of Michigan. And this is my second week on the job, so we're going to have a lot of fun during this discussion. So.
Okay. So let's start off with that. I was reading your notes here just before we came on air, and I was not familiar with the 60 for 30 program. That's a good place to start. Why don't we start there?
Sure. So this is something the governor set forth in our first State of the State address, and that is to seek attainment, an educational attainment goal of 60% of our working population by the year 2030. And there's a lot of reasons why that goal is important. One of which is individuals' prosperity, our state's economic competitiveness, all are attached to our education attainment. So it's a really critical piece for our economy and the health of our state. And that's what we're going to work on.
And the current stats are, I'll let you explain it. We're not at what you're going for is 60% of the state's population having a post-high school degree or technical degree or something along those lines. Where are we on that spectrum now?
We're about at 48%, okay? So we got to make up 12% over the next several years. And I got to tell you, there's some really interesting statistics out there when you look at other states, remarkably states in the South that have started to surpass us because they have a number of important programs like the Reconnect program, which you may have also heard us talk about from the state of Michigan, as well as the Futures for Frontliners work that was announced just last week.
Well, we can't have them Rebs passing us on anything now, can we? So,
well, like I say, the Bluegrass State is a beautiful state, but I'm a competitive girl, and I want to make sure my home state is at the cutting edge, and that's what we're going to do.
All right,
and obviously we're not just talking traditional four-year college degrees either, right? That's I think a little bit less than 30% of the people in Michigan possess those.
Yes, exactly. This is about high school diploma completion. That is about associate's degrees and bachelor's, as well as apprenticeships and certificate programs. So it's wide ranging because we have in-demand jobs, as you all know, across the state that vary a little bit by region, but we want to prepare our workforce for those positions.
Okay, and let's kind of get into the program, which is Futures for Frontliners. I'll make sure I said that right. And it was announced, I believe, on Thursday, but why don't you go into some details on that?
Sure. And this really, the premise of this all is not only some of the pieces we've already talked about, but the reality of what our state has gone through since we've been facing the pandemic. And that is, we've had a number of folks that have worked to keep hospitals running, manufacturing, and delivering ventilators and masks, keeping the electricity flowing and beyond. And this is a simple way to not only say thank you for all that work in the front lines, but also to offer a pathway towards an educational journey and improving their skills and preparing for the next job. So again, this is something that we're going to provide free tuition to those that are Michigan residents that worked 11 of 13 weeks from April through June, and were required to go outside of the home. That's what we're deeming as essential workers. That's who is eligible to apply for this program and enroll as soon as January of 2021.
And it's not open to people who already have associate's degrees or bachelor's degrees. These are people that have no beyond high school degrees, right?
Correct. Or no high school diploma completion. So they
Yeah.
are also eligible to this.
Okay.
And where can they use these tuition credits?
Michigan community colleges around the state. We want them to first and foremost for their local community college to look at programs there. That does not preclude them from going out of district to another community college if they so deem.
I think what Matt was also driving at is he's the news director for Lawrence Tech, and so like a 4-year school like Lawrence Tech, would they be eligible, or people be eligible to attend there, or not?
Right now, we're focused on those community colleges. They are
Okay.
partnered. Mhm.
All right.
Well, we've got articulation agreements with just about all of them. So if people want to start there, that's fine with us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. This is really developing the pipeline, right? And I think our focus is not only, especially with folks that have yet to achieve their high school diploma, we want to support them through that end, but then also forward in seeking additional skills and training or the associate's degree at their local community college.
now, are there
Well,
any particular fields of study that you're emphasizing here, or is this just open to whatever anyone might want to take?
Well, this is open, but we want to make sure folks are informed about the in-demand jobs on the end of this, okay?
Right.
There are a number of jobs every year that go unfilled, and we want to make sure that this is working for our business community as well, that they are getting the skilled workforce they need to be successful. So we've been working with our Michigan Works offices across the state to, gain what within their regions are in-demand jobs. I can tell you from across the state, it ranges from automotive service excellence certification to HAVAC certification and nursing and other health professionals. So it's pretty wide spanning, but we want to make sure that this is a pathway, not just a start and end, but there's a continuation piece. And we want to really connect the opportunities back to the skills and training that those folks need.
Well, even in the technology space, I'm in Ann Arbor. Of course, this is a big 4-year school here, but a lot of those
I
folks
won't
that
hold
get
that
their,
again's Gemma Spartan.
okay, all right. Well, the governor
all
is
right.
too, so but we give her a
So-
pass on that.
So's my daughter. She converted me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, here when you get a computer science degree, it's a 4-year degree, and often what happens by the time you get to graduate, what you learned in your freshman year is almost obsolete. So I know there's a lot of really good technical programs out there where 6 months or a year, and you can be up and running and making pretty good money and filling these jobs that are in desperate need right now, right?
Absolutely. And we have another skills to work online portal really that can help connect you to upgrade or upskill some of those items. So I would encourage anyone to go to the LEO website, michigan.gov/LEO, to learn more about the skills to work program.
Matt?
All right. So basically, there's also a skilled trade shortage, right? Are you going to address that with this program
Yes.
as well?
Yep. A number of those certificates will also we'll be providing support to obtain those certificates. Again, this is about preparing our workforce and for jobs that are on the other side of that. So, one of our biggest goals right now is to ensure that we have the right coalition that's built. That's our business community. We need them at the table. We need to make sure that we are developing the talent they need to be successful. 2 is our educational community and making this a spectrum of developing workers and long-term educational attainment, as well as government. There is a role for government, obviously, and that is not only from our elected leaders seeing leadership, not only at the state level, but in our local areas around the state, and ensuring that we're gearing all that we can from a state perspective to help support this. And that's where you get a number of the programs, Futures for Frontliners being the most recent. We are within a budget process here in the legislature on the Reconnect program that would be universal, free community college to anyone over the age of 25. My opportunity that gets to those kids just graduating high school to get access to the community college. But again, this isn't just about the community college. We want to support attainment further into post-secondary for those 4-year degrees as well. So it's really an exciting time, and it's an all hands on deck piece because this is about our economic competitiveness. We just can't have that bluegrass state, edging us out in any rankings whatsoever.
So is this modeled after what they're doing in Kentucky? I mean, is there a white, best practice kind of thing that you're looking at out there that you model it after?
You're exactly right, Michael, because we have Kentucky and Tennessee. They are two of the states that are really cutting edge. They're picking up pace on us. Tennessee's now nipping on our toes as well as it looks at post-secondary attainment. We've taken a look at what they've done and why they are increasing their rates so significantly, and it's essentially these programs, and that's why we got to get them up, we got to get them funded, up and running, and luckily the Futures for Frontliners are federal dollars we've been able to access through the CARES Act and mobilize them to help support our workforce.
So how much money is available through the CARES Act for this program?
I believe it's 23 or 24 million. Okay. And again, yes.
That'll go a long way at the community college level because the tuition's pretty reasonable there. So it should. And the only thing is we are in a bit of a time crunch because we need folks to apply by December 31st. So that's the other piece. Okay. There's a timeline piece. And folks have to, eligible folks need to apply with the Department of Treasury here at the state of Michigan for this tuition-free support. And then also they have to be accepted by their community college and enroll. They have to enroll in 2021 to secure those funds.
That's a lot of hurdles to jump over in 3.5 months.
Don't you worry, we're going to have some navigators and community outreach to make sure that these applicants have the information they need to go to the next step.
All right, we're into our last minute on this segment. So why don't you give all that contact information one more time? Where do people start the process?
So yes, you can go to michigan.gov/frontliners. All the information you need for the Futures for Frontliners program can be found there, as well as a link to where you apply. And that should be a one-stop access point for you to get additional background and frequently asked questions as well if there's anything we didn't cover here today.
Okay, take us out, Matt.
All right, thanks very much. Carrie Ebersole with the state of Michigan talking about the 60 by 30 program and Futures for Frontliners. You just heard the contact information, and I'm sure Mike will post that at mitechnews.tv, right, Mike?
Indeed.
Okay, well, we'll be back in just a minute with another segment of the M-Squared Techcast. For right now, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And you're watching at Podcast Detroit, mitechnews.tv, and all over the place, wherever a fine podcast can be found.
Lawrence Technological University graduate, earn a degree, and a higher starting
salary. Sounds like a great program. I know a couple of people I'm going to refer to this, so I'm going to get you some customers.
On U.S. colleges and universities.
Okay.
Be enriched.
I don't see Fred on the board. Is he in there?
Everything.
No. Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
What do you get at Lawrence Technological University? Everything. Great labs and studios, supportive professors, plus a full campus life, NAIA athletics, and all the software you need to succeed. Be smart. Be more. At LTU, possible is everything.
Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
Lawrence Technological University graduate.
Go ahead and start after this segment.
A higher starting salary.
Him and I, Matt and I will just talk, and hopefully Fred will come in.
LTU fifth among U.S. colleges and universities. Be enriched.
Sorry, couldn't hear you, Mike.
After this latest commercial, go ahead and start. We'll just hope Fred comes in, but I don't want to just keep doing commercial after commercial.
Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
Hey, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan, and we're back. We're waiting for Fred Brown, our infectious disease expert, to join us. But in the meantime, we can talk a little bit about LTU. I know you had RoboFest over the weekend. How'd that go, Matt?
Well, we are having RoboFest virtually online this year. It is the only robotics competition in the world this year during this pandemic because the other competitions sort of depend on in-person competitions, and we can do ours online. We just make sure that everybody follows the rules of the various events and the games, and we've got basically thousands of teams all over the world started this thing, and now it's down to hundreds of teams, and there's a different competition being held every weekend through early October, and that's when we're going to announce the winners in all of the separate competitions. We've got, RoboFest is a little bit different than First Robotics and other robotics competitions, and it is that the robots are small. They're, roughly like that big, a loaf of bread. And they cost about $400. So the cost of entry in RoboFest is quite modest. It's only a $50 registration fee for a team. And the robots are all controlled entirely by software. There is no human operator with a joystick. And that's how robots operate in the real world. Manufacturing robots don't have a guy with a joystick there. They operate on software. So the kids learn software and they learn robotics with real world application skills. Also, the robots involved in First Robotics, the players don't know some of the challenges that they will be facing until competition day. And then they have 2 hours to program their robots to accomplish that particular task with no adult assistance at all. So you have junior high kids that are learning very sophisticated computer code to make their robot accomplish a certain task. They have to move a ball from one place to another, or move a block from one place to another, or hit a ball or something like that. There are all sorts of sort of unknown factors that aren't revealed until competition day. That's for some of the competitions. What's also unique about RoboFest is that there's also an open exhibition category. Participants can design a robot. Well, they can dream up a task that a robot could do, something like checking patients in a hospital or watering a garden, fertilizing a garden, and then they design a robot that's able to do that. They design it and they program it and they set it to doing that in a demonstration area of RoboFest. So the judges for RoboFest are mostly computer science professionals from around the state of Michigan. And there's Fred Brown. So I'm going to wrap up this part right here and tell people if they want more information about RoboFest to go to robofest.net.
Okay, well, I actually have 5 segments here today, 4 segments, but because now we have Fred joining us from his house in Ann Arbor, stone's throw from where I live. So I know we took a week off last week, so we need to do a little catch up. So we have you until 2:45. So let's talk. What do you want? What's top of mind for you, Fred?
Top of mind for me. How does models sound? I was going to talk to you a little about what the models are saying to us these days. If you're interested. Would you like to take a look?
Yes.
Okay. So let me see if I can find some things that might be of interest here. And here we are. So this on March 23rd, I wrote an article and I estimated how many people were going to die as a result of COVID by September 1st in the United States. And my estimate at the time was 145 to 180,000 people. And as you know,
scary.
Yeah, on September 1st, we actually had 184,800 or so.
Pretty good model.
So I think the models are reasonably accurate, and some people were slightly better. Some were worse, but the point is, I guess we really can model some of this stuff based on what we know about the virus and about what we know about our behaviors. And so I projected that model, and I also attached that to unemployment and economic models. And I guessed that this is on March 23rd that and then I I gave a presentation on April 5th to you the first time and talked a little bit about this. And I guess that our unemployment drop is going to be 26%. And the actual number, and that was based on U6 numbers, the actual joblessness hit 22.5, a little bit more. So, reasonably close there as well. I thought the required stimulus is going to be 4.2 trillion and 1.2, and I'm sorry, $1 trillion in Federal Reserve. The actual was about 3.7 trillion, and people, I think that if Congress had a chance, they'd certainly give us the extra $500 billion. I'm sorry, 500 billion, and bring us up to the 4.2 that I'd estimated. The Fed really outdid itself and did extremely well, and actually put $3 trillion into the market space. So that was something I underestimated significantly. I just didn't think they could act that fast based on what they'd done with the TARP program. And then I thought that the total net economic damage was going to be about 2.5 trillion contraction in GDP. The actual number was 2.45. So, not too bad. And I wanted to show you, based on those models, what I'm coming up with now, if that's helpful.
Yes.
Because I think people might be surprised. Basically, if you look overall, at what's happening at the globe, we aren't doing very well. Basically, it's been a steady rise in cases around the globe, and that's because this is nature, and it's just relentless. I mean, it will keep going and going and going unless you're really very focused on particular strategies. You're going to have problems because nature's everywhere, and unless you focus on and try to knock stuff down, you're going to have problems. So so in the United States, that was our biggest problem. We don't really have a single strategy. We've got a number of different strategies. Some are kind of a little bit more laissez-faire, and others are very controlled. So in the laissez-faire area, those sort of the brutal bets. It's Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, South Dakota, Iowa. You can see those are positioned right up against some of the states that are really trying to control this carefully. And so the problem is we have so much transit between these states that some are trying to really control very carefully, and others are letting the economy open completely. The result of that is that really we cancel each other out. So we're fighting nature against really no single strategy. I mean, we're a big place, but the truth is that collectively we all have to have a strategy, otherwise we can't really focus our resources. And so that's, we can't make decisions quickly. We get all confused about the messaging, lots of communications are going all over the place. Every time I go to a new government, they're starting to learn something. I have to take them up the same learning curve. They don't understand what I'm talking about when I say, what's your positive case rate, things like that. And so, and of course, our scale of operations is really tiny compared to how big we are in terms of how much we're doing testing and contact tracing and so on, compared to where other countries are on a per capita basis. So, and whenever you talk to people, they always millions of different measurements, and people can't really tell how we're going up against that. So the result of that is that, sadly, we don't really have a strategy. We've got 50 separate strategies, and many of them are counteracting each other. So, when you think about the different strategies we've got, like I talked a little bit about the laissez-faire kind of model and the quite controlled model. And if you think about it, through our history, humans have done that, right? So humans have said, either it's every person for himself, and here's the hunter-gatherers going out and looking for their meat, and they delegate all the decisions to the individual level. It's difficult to prioritize. You don't really know where you're going to go hunting. It's difficult to leverage decisions and investments, and you have to reinvent all the time. You're not really sure how to kill the mastodon, and you don't really have much scale. So the other, and there we've seen that countries that are trying to go like that at this virus, basically what's happening is you're just going up a steady curve, not really controlling it well. Then there's sort of the agrarian model where everyone gets together, they pitch in, they decide on a strategy, they combat and kind of control in a micro area what's going on with nature. And you're able to prioritize resources and activity. You've got mutually supportive systems. Everyone's learning best practices. You're getting scaled operations. And you can see that there, the pattern is much more, you get hit once, and then you slowly learn, and you collectivize, and you really try to keep the thing down. Now, if you think about those two things, that's one way we have fighting nature. Then the other way we fight nature, and try to control and live with nature, is we respond to huge catastrophes, right? And there are kind of two ways to respond to catastrophes. One way is the way we respond to like hurricanes and fires, right? It happens in a day or so. Hopefully California sadly a little more than a day, but it's a day or so. You put the thing out, or the weather goes by, and then you have a big response, and you're in a month or two you're back to normal. Maybe even in a week or two you're back to normal. So that's sort of whack-a-mole. You go around and try to respond very quickly to these big outbreaks. Whereas if you've got long-term kinds of remediation that you have to do, then basically what you want to do is at each event you want to get a little bit smarter and work your way down. So let's take a look at how these two things combine for ourselves. So in the United States, basically, we had this kind of slow upward trajectory of what you'd expect with the hunter-gatherer approach, punctuated by big outbreaks in New York, New Jersey, Florida, and Texas. Whereas China and Europe, they had a big outbreak, they controlled it, and they slowly are pushing the thing down. Now it's going to come back again, every once in a while, but there's a different kind of philosophy and approach that these countries are taking versus the United States. So if you combine those two, just take a look at the upper model. Here is what, and so here's what happens when you combine the two, right? You get that line. So just keep your eye on that upper model, and here's what actually happened with cases in the United States. Interestingly, that red line is what happened with the United States, right? So when we model this, it's difficult to model if you're looking at those little humps. You say, how are you going to model a hump? That's very difficult. Well, what you do is you actually model the real growth that's happening underneath, and then you predict based on policy and behavior and trends what groups of states in the United States are going to have an outbreak. And that's the way we're starting to model now. And when you do that, what happens is that you get distracted. A lot of the countries are distracted by, oh, we had a peak and then we're going down. Oh, going down looking good. Then we have another peak and we're going back down again. And these peaks are actually kind of, for us modelers, are a little bit of a distraction. What's really happening is this real growth line in black underneath at all. And the result of not really focusing on that real growth line means we could have trouble, because we talked about exponential growth. And things go slow like that black line is doing, and all of a sudden, once they hit a certain level, they start to exponentially grow. So here's what's happening with deaths. And you can see the same thing. We had a peak and then came down, and a peak and then came down. But notice that each time we come down, when we go to the bottom, we were kind of down at 240 deaths a day at our absolute minimum, averaging around 500 on the 7-day average. Today, we're down. We're at about 800. The problem is that those are your bottoms, right? And so each time you hit a bottom of the plateau, you're jumping back up again. And each time you come back and you have to run down another outbreak, you're starting at a higher level. So each time we start at a higher and higher and higher level. So that gives you a chance for outbreak. So here is what the projections could be, right? They could just flatten out at around 1,000 cases a day for the rest of the year. They could decline to the same level they did before at 500 a day, right? That's sort of this other, if you look at where we were in June, July, that's sort of the end of the decline. Or we could be like Europe and China, and maybe the whole thing will just die out in October. So if you had to guess what do you think? Which one do you think you guys like better?
I wouldn't say but I'm thinking the top line of 1,000 a day is probably realistic considering what's going on right now.
That's right. We're at sort of a pretty steady state. Unfortunately, when you do the models, it looks like this. Oops.
Oh.
And the reason for that is because remember that big black line I was talking about that's underneath this whole thing that's really just driving the true COVID growth? That line keeps going and it hits exponential growth starting around the middle of October. So we're going to see sort of steady state September, steady state October, and then little peaks and valleys based on school starting and Labor Day. But the big hit is going to start happening late October early November, and by Thanksgiving it will really be out. It'll really be off. You'll really feel the difference.
So I'm curious, what's driving that? Why is it going to be so much worse? Is it just that we're all going to go back inside to enclosed spaces, or?
That is a great question, and there are 7 things that I think are going to drive it.
Oh, well,
It's almost like we said,
that was not scripted. Let me assure you.
The 7 things are that we really don't have any underlying viral control. Sadly, that black line that's keep going up, like the rest of the world keeps going up, and now we know when that exponential growth is going to start to hit, and so because we're not really in control, it starts to hit November. Second thing, of course, we move inside. As you pointed out, people aren't, so in the South, when people moved inside due to air conditioning and heat, the same thing's going to happen to us up here, where we're going to move inside as a result of cold. And we're going to have the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, lots of travel, lots of people getting together. And so it's sort of a perfect storm.
New Year's Eve, all that stuff.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. I'm looking forward to it already. And of course, there's another big issue.
I don't go out on New Year's Eve anyway because it's the amateur night. So it's now I've really got a reason to stay home. Geez.
Yeah, this really, you don't want to go to Times Square and celebrate with a lot of New Yorkers. That probably isn't the right thing. Especially people who are flying in from all over the world. They don't want to do that. That's not a good outcome. Although it's outside, so maybe it's gonna, don't go inside anything. The politics are also challenging. If Trump leads the election, and I've modeled this as well, I think it's gonna be an extremely close election. It doesn't really matter who wins that much, because during this period, what's going to happen kind of November through December is, Donald Trump would legitimately say, hey, I've got a mandate, so we're going to continue to open, and things are going to be that way. Or if Biden wins, then it'll be a lame duck, and everyone will say, we better wait till the new president comes on. So whatever happens during this huge period of exponential growth, chances are we're not going to be doing much about it. Of course, we have the flu season that's going to be taking off at the same time. And the problem with the flu season, it puts a lot of people in the hospital, and it's about 200,000 a year. A month. So you have 200,000 extra flu people hitting the flu victims hitting the hospitals. And as I said, the big change in death occurs when you have overload, when the hospitals start to back up the ambulances, and you got to have freezer trucks and so on. That's not a good sign. That's going to happen likely, November, December. In the freezer trucks. We continue. We're going to be continued rationing of the PPE and testing. We don't see enough of that coming out in the next few months. Unfortunately, everyone's getting excited about the vaccine, and unfortunately, no one will get. There'll be very few people actually vaccinated with the vaccine until probably the middle of next year. Even if we get it out, November-ish, we still have to scale it up. And I am working with one of the companies who's doing the scale up, and it's challenging. We got a long way to go, and so that's actually my numbers are slightly more optimistic than most. Most people are in around a little over 400,000 deaths by December 31st, and I am at a little over 300,000 deaths, and my range is between 265 and about 400.
That's like the total deaths for the American forces in World War II is 400,000. So,
and some people are getting and some people are getting up to 7,000 deaths a day. That is a battle of Gettysburg every day. I'm not there yet, but they could be right. They're certainly within the margin of error of confidence that are this far out in December.
Without getting too political, if we had done more of the European lockdown and everybody wearing masks, kind of, instead of having 50 responses, had one federal response, how much do you think this would have changed?
Well, it turns out that the big issue isn't so much. Well, eventually it became how much we actually did the control. If we were at the European level of control, we would save 100,000 lives between now and December, according to my model. About 100,000. Now, the big issue with the death rate, unfortunately, wasn't the strategy. It was actually how fast we reacted. If we'd reacted just a little bit faster, we would have nipped the virus a little bit more in the bud. But unfortunately, in that period in February, when we really should have been testing a lot more, we had some issues with the CDC, who was trying to put out its own test, rejected the WHO test, and then turned out the test was contaminated. So we lost a whole month of contamination, and we had to rely on what they call the ILI database. The ILI database is the influenza-like illnesses, and CDC was adamant about the fact that, this is a flu-like virus, and we're not detecting any spread of flu-like diseases. Unfortunately, it doesn't spread like the flu. It spreads a super spread. There's a whole bunch of differences between the flu and the COVID, and so they tremendously underestimated how bad the situation was. And so, when you look at the whole thing, right now it's coming out that President Trump knew quite a bit on February 7th. The truth is that a lot of his experts were saying, it's not spreading like you think. It's probably going to be okay. I give him a little bit of a break versus what you're hearing a lot on the news, because I was part of that. I was really upset about this, and that's when I started really working on this. Is February 15th. On February 7th, they announced we're going to have the CDC announced we're going to have the test available. February 15th, there was no test being sent out, and everybody was kind of panicking, wondering what was going on. And the CDC became very quiet, and then claimed that we weren't having the spread that we thought we were, and that was incorrect. That was just and that really, I think, when we look back on this, that's going to be a huge factor. Not so much. Yes, now it is that we're not responding as well with behavioral change as we need to with non-pharmaceutical intervention, but back at that time when we really had a chance to kill it early, we had the wrong information, and that was disappointing. So that's so basically the forecast on the biological side is it's going to be not such a great winter, and so do the stuff you want to do now when it's nice out. You can do things outside, because if you wait till November, you're going to be there's a good chance you'll be out of luck. Right.
We have a lot of there's going to be a lot of really soul searching, because with Thanksgiving, Christmas, not so much New Year's, because Matt won't be out, so we'll be okay. But I mean, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, people want to get the family together, and can that be done?
No. Do not schedule big family events. Do not have a big Christmas plan. Do not fly anywhere around. I wouldn't recommend. Sadly, just based on the models, I would not recommend it. You can do that, but you'll be traveling around in a period of heightened risk. And so just think about your own personal situation. If you've got diabetes, are overweight, have a heart condition, and all the other have cancer and are immunocompromised anyway. That plus this activity plus the fact that you're actually in a very active virus environment. All three of those things coming together is going to be extremely deadly. Now you could, it'll ruin my model, but please, I'd much rather have my model be wrong and people, the number of deaths down than I'm right. But because it's natural for us all to get together, right? And Thanksgiving, my wife and I have 30, 40 people coming from all over the world to visit on Thanksgiving. We love it. And this year,
I was at your Christmas party last year.
That's right. That's right. You were right. So we love getting together. So it's disappointing. Probably no Christmas party either. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's more like that downward trend heading on October 15th. But sadly the models are just telling us something completely different. As I said, this time I'm actually relatively positive compared to most. Back in March, I was very negative compared to most. And people were laughing me out of their office saying, that's never going to happen. We're never going to have 180,000 people dead by September. We're never going to have 26% reduction in the GDP. Disappointingly, I was correct. So the good news is that if where we are NPI compliant or non-pharmaceutical intervention compliant, those are the masks, those are the all the things like hand washing and distancing. Where we're doing that, we do see a good reduction in the rate of transmission. So that's the good news. So we have some control over this, but there's going to be a lot of push toward moving the contagion up in our neck of the woods, especially.
I have to ask you what you think about sports programs starting up again, like college football and high school sports here in Michigan. What do you think?
They'll be shutting down again. It's just sad. I hate to say it. I just, you just can't. The problem is you can't beat the math. You can do everything you want to and try to be as good as you can, but we just don't have good enough control of this virus. Even if we were doing really well with the NPI, which we're not, non-pharmaceutical intervention, which we're not, we just have so much virus out there, and now it's spreading into the countryside so well that there's just and you can see. I think MSU went into full lockdown. They locked down.
One of my side gigs, Fred, is that I do public address announcing for the high school that my kids went to. And I've already done a soccer game. I'm doing another one at 5 o'clock today, actually.
Great.
And the mask compliance on the part of the athletes, though, is pretty pitiful. Half of them have the mask down below their nose, and they're fiddling with them all the time and taking them off all the time. And they're macho young men who think they're indestructible. So I guess that's understandable, right? But that's not going to help things.
You're locked away in the press box, though, so you're good up there.
Yeah, I'm all by myself in the press box, right? Yeah, there's nobody else up there, so that's fine. But
that's the real problem with this is that you can feel great and be young and strong, and you could be asymptomatic, and you'll be just transmitting just as much as the guy who's sick in the hospital, and they just don't know. You can't tell that you've got the virus in about 40% of the cases. And that's what really makes this a tough one, and why the university is having so much problems right now. MSU just went into full quarantine, about 40,000 students, I think, 50,000 students. So
getting back to the idea of the airlines have responded by eliminating the center seats and making you wear masks and gloves, and they take your temperature. Is that enough? I keep coming back to my daughter's pressuring me to fly to Seattle to see my grandson, and I'm a little nervous about that.
So I think what we need to get to for airlines is three things. So right now, I don't, depending on your personal situation, the issue for Seattle is even if you go nonstop, you're talking about being, several hours in a plane. 5 hours in a plane.
Yep.
And the issue actually is there are a whole bunch of issues, but there's aerosolization, especially when you're getting on the plane and getting off the plane, because we have to use auxiliary power at that point. We don't have as much air circulation when you're sitting taxiing on the runway until you get in the air, so you don't get as much of that fresh air as you want. So airplanes tend to circulate the air every 2 to 3 minutes, but it's still a 50-50 mix. So if you can attach something right to what they call the gasper is the thing that blows on you. If you could attach a tube right to that and then have that attached to a mask, you'd be a lot safer. And so there are some interesting opportunities there. Testing, if you could test everyone not with a temperature reading, but actually with a true test, and there are tests that are coming out that are going to be quite a bit more accurate, quite a bit faster, that you could actually test everyone getting on and off a flight for about $2 to $3, and we'd all take that, right? The problem is that you're still, you'd have to make sure that people were willing to quarantine for a little while until they took the test, because it takes about 4 to 8 days for the test to come be really fully most accurate. So you have to at least have a 4-day period between exposure chances and getting on the plane. But it's better than nothing. And the last issue, of course, is the vaccine. So if any of those technologies come through, I think those are the best opportunities, from non-pharmaceutical intervention to vaccine to a testing. So those are the best options we have right now.
All right, I'm afraid we're going to have to cut you off because we're out of time.
All right. Well, why don't we talk next time about the economy? How does that sound?
That sounds great. Sure.
All
Next
right.
Monday.
Okay, I'm hoping we still have one. We'll see.
It's going to be a little bit of a long slog, but I'll see you guys next week. Look forward to it.
All right. All right, thanks very much. Our own special epidemiologist and infectious disease expert, Fred Brown. Thanks for being with us today, Fred. For right now, this is Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And we'll be right back with another segment of the M Squared Techcast.
What do you get at Lawrence
you, Brent.
Technological University? Everything.
I-
Great labs and
I've always
studios,
been,
supportive
we've always done
professors,
smaller
plus a
family
full campus
gatherings at
life,
Thanksgiving and
NAIA
Christmas, so
athletics, and all the
I'm not sure
software
we'll be
you
doing
need to
anything this
succeed.
year.
Be smart.
Well,
Be
hopefully
at
I'm
LTU,
wrong.
possible
Could be.
is everything.
That was
Okay, all
Salaries
right,
of
take care.
Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and
So do we
coaches.
have Lisa with us
Why
yet?
wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
Yeah, I don't see your next guy.
As a Lawrence Technological University graduate, you're not only marketable, you're worth more. Yes, more. According to payscale.com, when it comes to graduate salaries, LTU is in America's top 100.
Oh, I might have sent out the wrong freaking link.
Possible is everything.
Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
What do you get at Lawrence Technological University? Everything. Great labs and studios, supportive professors, plus a full campus life, NAIA athletics, and all the software you need to succeed. Be smart. Be more. At LTU, possible is everything.
Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
Lawrence Technological University graduates earn a degree and a higher starting salary. In fact, when it comes to earning potential, the Brookings Institution ranks LTU 5th among U.S. colleges and universities. Be enriched. Be more. At LTU, possible is everything.
Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
As a Lawrence Technological University graduate, you're not only marketable, you're worth more. Yes, more. According to payscale.com, when it comes to graduate salaries, LTU is in America's top 100. Be invaluable. Be more. At LTU, possible is everything.
Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait?
Get back up, Dave.
All right, you're good to go?
Yep.
Yep.
Live TV, you gotta love it.
Okay, Mike, you want to take us in?
Oh, right. Oh, yes. Okay. I was waiting for the music, but no music. Hey, it's Mike Brennan.
And it's Matt Roush.
And we're doing an extended format here. We had a little technical difficulty there, but we got that solved. And so we have an old friend, a longtime friend of mine.
Long time.
I always
Much
get
better.
busted.
It's okay, Mike. I'm old.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
old by any standard.
Lisa Valley Smith, who co-founded Airfoil Public Relations way back when, about a month before or after. I know it's real close. Before when I started mine program. So we've both been doing this 20 years. And so she also has with her Keith Donovan, who's the new CEO there or president. I'm not sure what the title is.
No, president of Airfoil Communications.
But
Okay.
I'm sure Keith will displace me very soon.
Okay, push
I don't
you
know about
out.
that.
Since you're an old person, he's going to push you out, Lisa. So
Fine.
just kidding. So, let's talk a little bit about Josh. I've known you way back when I was at the Free Press, and you were at another agency.
Yeah.
Let's talk about way back when, this little ancient history back in 2000. There really wasn't that many or very few technology public relations firms in even the Great Lakes area. You might have been one of the first, right?
That was the plan. That was the strategy. And that was the opportunity that I saw was I just looked around and I had started a technology practice at Franco Public Relations Group where I was president. And that practice area was just growing like crazy year over year, and had a vision to start a firm from the ground up that was uniquely designed to meet the needs of technology companies, many of which were startups. That was in the, the fun wild.com, huge venture funded times. And they were spending a lot of their budget from these investments from the VCs on marketing and communications. And so that was the idea, that was the opportunity. And like any good entrepreneur / fool, I did it, and
I can
here
relate.
we are 20 years later, still going
Yes.
strong.
And I remember you had a little core staff of 6 in the Penobscot building, and I remember way up on the 22nd floor or someplace like that, right?
Wow, you have a freakishly good memory, Mike. Yeah, there were 5 of us, all women, I'm proud to say. And we started up in what was then, I think it was called Start Detroit.
Yeah,
It was an
incubator, accelerator kind of thing.
Yeah, it was an accelerator. And yeah, we were all in one office, and we had our laptops, and that was about it.
And then you went to Southfield for what, about 10 years or so?
We actually went to the 1001 Woodward building. That is now a Gilbert property. And we were there for, I think, 3 years. And then we went to the Southfield Town Center for almost 11 years. And now or had been pre-COVID at beautiful office space in downtown Royal Oak, which suits us perfectly.
Yeah, you're about a mile from the Podcast Detroit studios.
That's
and
correct.
So easy for you just to drive down the street when we had you on the show. So
Absolutely.
Matt.
Oh, Keith, give me a little bit about your background and your role as president of communications for Airfoil. I know the firm reorganized in 2018, so tell me a little bit about that too.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I've actually been with the firm for about 14 years now, so I'm a veteran foiler, as we say. But you're right, Matt. We reorganized the agency a couple years ago, and I took over as president of Airfoil Communications. And this was a really interesting time for our business. We were going through a lot of change. We were also launching our digital agency at the time, Airfoil Digital. So Lisa was really kind of creating a real new structure to the organization, having the communications arm as our legacy business, and then adding the digital side of our business. But in terms of my role in particular, I really kind of work on the front lines with our teams to help them develop and guide strategy, communication strategy for our clients. So I'm working very closely with our staff on the comm side, and we're developing strategic programs for a broad range of clients. But I also, I wear many hats. So I also, lead the sales and marketing efforts for the firm, and I oversee a lot of the operational elements of the firm as well, in terms of bringing on new talent and developing talent within the agency. And as you guys know all too well, things change very quickly in journalism and PR, and that just requires just constant development and evolution of our skills within the agency. And so I spend a fair amount of time working with the team just to, always kind of be on the leading edge of what's happening in our industry.
Yeah, that's kind of a technology business. I've pivoted so many times, I feel like a whirling dervish. And so you keep adding, and things work for a while, then they don't work, and you add something new. And so our new wrinkle, of course, is video. So let's talk about trends. I don't know who wants to field this, but what are you seeing moving forward in technology, digital trends, that sort of thing?
I'd like
Sure.
to take that one, Keith.
Yeah, I'm happy to take it. So, boy, that's a great question, and that's a conversation we're having with a lot of clients right now. I think obviously the circumstances of the last 6 months or so have brought about a lot of change in our industry. So, I think immediately right now, COVID is still having a very big impact on our business from a communication standpoint. And that means everything from internal communications, crisis communications work with a lot of our clients. So that's a big piece of it. I would also say there's this continued, I think, focus around cybersecurity and big tech, and the idea of transparency in terms of data in the tech industry. That's something that we're dealing a lot with, and I think that's something that's going to impact communications for quite some time into the future. You're seeing a lot of companies kind of have to rethink their communication strategy, rethink about how they're being transparent in their business and the way they're sharing information. And that's something that we're dealing with on a daily basis with clients and helping them kind of navigate that situation.
Lisa, do you have something you want to add?
Well, coincidentally, we did an informal survey of our clients who are mostly communicators and marketers, and there were a couple of things that emerged as very important trends in the near future. And one of those has to do with social issues, social justice, racism, and in particular, diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizations. And so there is also going to be, obviously, a huge shift away from live events, traditional trade shows and conferences. As Keith knows, and you guys know, for how many years have we, gotten ready for the North American International Auto Show and then CES and all those kinds of things, and hardly had a holiday, and that is going to change radically. So, and as part of that, as companies shift their event marketing dollars to other areas, primarily digital, their messaging and their narratives need to shift as well. So that's another trend that we're seeing. Digital marketing obviously is exploding. It's becoming even more so, and social media platforms will continue to be just a mainstay for getting messages out there.
Okay, Matt.
Well, the firm started out as a technology agency. Is that still your primary focus, working with tech companies?
It's a really big part of our account portfolio. And many of these are early stage companies, which frankly, a lot of firms are not equipped to work with. They don't have the experience, patience, and there is risk associated with working with early stage companies. Some of them are wildly successful. It's always a bumpy ride, as you guys know, working with entrepreneurs who are creating the next big thing. But I'd say it's, probably a good 30 to 40% of our overall portfolio if you look at just, numbers of clients. There are many tangential industries to traditional technology that have been opportunistic for us as well, including healthcare as well as global mobility.
We only have about 3.5 months left in the year, but you got anything else up your sleeve that you're going to be doing this year?
Well, working closely with our clients, we're starting to get involved with planning for next year. But as part of our 20th anniversary celebration, we did want to do something special for a key stakeholder audience of Airfoils as a public relations firm, and that is the news media industry and journalists in particular. And we've been hearing from journalists lately, this is a really hard time for you guys to do your jobs. And in a sense, journalists are really frontline workers for us in many respects in terms of protecting our freedom and our democracy. And so we have created a film that is a salute to journalists. It's on the homepage of airfoilgroup.com. And it's intended to just say thank you, for the incredible work that you do, and also promotes 2 nonprofit organizations that are working very hard to help protect journalists and help them do their jobs. So something, it's actually just gone live today, so something for your viewers to check out.
Yeah, at least in this country, they're not killing journalists, whereas in a lot of other countries, I'm very much aware that you have a target on your back if you're a journalist. And I've only worked as a war correspondent one time, and that was hairy enough. I can't imagine doing it outside of the United States again. So
there's actually a really shocking graphic on, I think it's the American Journalism Project. The other organization is the Committee to Protect Journalists, but they have a bar graph that shows number of journalists who have been killed. And this year is sadly a record. But we've talked to journalists. These people are getting death threats, you know, news broadcasters, news producers. It's not uncommon. And it's really sad. And we just wanted to say thank you.
Okay. I think we're going to, Keith, any final words you want to share here before we sign off for this segment?
Yeah, no, I just want to kind of echo what Lisa was saying about the commitment of journalists in this country. You know, this was a video that we were really proud to make, and it's a proud moment in our history, and we're glad that we can shed a little bit of light on this issue. You know, there are things that people don't understand that happen here in the United States, and to Lisa's point, journalists do get death threats and tremendous amount of criticism in this day and age. So, you know, we're thankful that we've been able to work with so many wonderful journalists through the years. You know, they are really the backbone of what we do. So, you know, we're proud to issue this tribute to them.
All right. Good point to close on.
Yeah, thanks very much, Keith Donovan and Lisa Valley-Smith from Airfoil Group. I'm glad to have you with us today, and thanks for being with us once again.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll be back next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time with another edition of the M Squared Techcast at mitechnews.tv. For right now, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And you've been watching mitechnews.tv.
Oh, no music, so I guess we're done. Dave, are you
All right,
there?
thanks, folks.
Thanks for
There's the
listening.
music. Oh, okay.
Techcast.
All right, cool.
A live internet
All right,
radio
Mike, I'll
show
talk to you next
offering the
week.
latest news and interviews
I'll
with the
talk to you
people